Hey y'all, welcome back to the Power and Lifting Podcast. I'm your host, Solana Lewis. Today, I speak with Sarean Metzinger, and she just had a phenomenal meet at Carolina Primetime, totaling 946 pounds, which is now number 6 ranked all time of 52 tested raw female lifters. She was such a blast to talk to. We honestly had a great conversation just about everything, not just about her performance, but life, morning routine, a lot of stuff. It was a great conversation to get to know her as a person and athlete. So I hope y'all enjoyed the conversation. And I'm going to just say, y'all, it was my first time ever speaking to her in my life. Like the DM I sent her to get on the podcast was the first message I ever sent her in my life. It truly felt like I was talking to my best friend. Like, not even kidding. It was just a vibe. I was here for it. So please enjoy it. And don't forget to leave a 5-star review and rating. I forgot to even ask. It's Sarean, right?
Yes.
Oh, but do you prefer Schmetzy?
I don't care. I mean, I just think it's funny. I mean, the first time I really heard my handle be used verbally was actually like probably by Angelo and Steve, because they were just unsure of how to say my name. Because I think for the most part, people call me either Sarean, or my friends at home will call me like Beanie or Sarean, which is like the satirical nickname I earned from drinking beverages that I can drink after 21.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm gonna go with Sarean because that's what's in my head. I'm happy you appreciate it. But girl, so I was watching you at Carolina Primetime, and we did a preview show, so I already had my eye on you. And when I saw your performance and then went on open powerlifting, it was like comparing it to everyone else. I was like, oh my God, like you are so strong. You're number 6, like in the world right now, 52 kilo.
Am I actually?
For a raw tested woman. Yes.
I did not know.
Yeah, I know. Well, now you know. And the people above you are all very well-known people. So this is like, you are extremely strong. Like, and then comparing last year's Carolina Primetime, which was definitely what we call like your first real breakout meet when you had above 500 dots, to now, even though it's been a year, like you got 21 pounds in your total. Now, for people who are listening to the podcast, 21 pounds in a year is a lot. Okay, especially when you're not brand new to the sport. Like, I wish I could put 21 pounds in my total for next meet. I hope I can, if I say a prayer to Jesus and get on my knees and like work really hard. But you've made amazing progress. Like, tell me how the training was going into this meet and what your expectations were.
Oh my gosh. The training going into this meet was kind of funky, and it wasn't even the training that was funky. Like, of course, I'm getting my PhD in Wisconsin, and Madison is known for, side note, why would you put a state capital and also a very prestigious university on an isthmus between two? Why would you do that? There's so little room. Okay, I'm not going to get into it, but there's hardly any parking. So, of course, my now mode of transportation has been a bicycle, which, unless I'm going to pay like $12 a day, I'm going to do that. And this all ties together, I promise. So, biking daily was definitely something to get used to. I did it a little bit last year, but thankfully there was a bus line that I took. But now I live in a place where I actually do have to bike everywhere. So like in the midst of moving to where I live now, and then I got COVID, and then just like trying to get on my feet with my second year of my PhD and like do things better, because I hopefully learned something from last year. I got hit by a car while riding my bike. Like, that was so frustrating.
Wow.
It wasn't like devastating or anything. It was just, that was inconvenient.
That's like the most mellow way of saying it. But I mean, you did compete, so clearly it wasn't devastating, but like, wow.
It was definitely frustrating, like, because it was like on a Monday. And I remember like this car was trying to go around me, and I'm not going to go too deep into like the details, but essentially like we sideswiped because I was getting ready to turn left and she was going around me, passing me. And I like hit the ground and like head scraped up, leg scraped up. And I was chaotically trying to figure out through EMS and different medical services, like, am I structurally sound because I'm still going to go lift tonight, which no one understood. But I'm like, no, I'm going to feel like I got hit by a car tomorrow and then probably feel like I'm going to get hit by a truck on Wednesday. Like it's just going to get worse. So I should probably do my heavy squat session tonight. Is exactly what my mindset was. So like that was the epitome of how this meet prep went, because I was just kind of like stumbling through it. And my coach Jared, I love him with all my little heart because he just deals with me and I'm neurotic. My peak part of my prep was really weird. I wasn't feeling strong during it, which I guess is I actually did peak for once. I guess I'm also just like a notorious sandbagger. I hate doing hard things. And I don't mean that like I don't mind doing work. I just don't like to fail. So I never want to push my squat, bench, or deadlift anywhere near failure. And so everything we do is some max. And so this peak actually being somewhat close to max and then feeling so fatigued, I was actually thinking like the only goal I had for Carolina Primetime was please just meet your total. Like just meet the total that you made last year. Let's try to go 9 for 9. Then let's see what happens. So that's kind of how my meet prep went.
So we're gonna just go back up a lot. Like I took so many notes when you just talked. I was like keywords to write down. Let's back up to COVID. Like when did COVID happen? And then like how long were you not able to train from that?
Shoot, when did it happen? It would have been like August 1st because I got COVID right before I was supposed to move into my new apartment, which I moved in August 6th. So I was out for a week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like 2.5-ish months ago, almost 2.5 months ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long were you out? Like how bad was it for you?
It wasn't terrible. I've had COVID several times this year, which was kind of funny to me, but I mean, I was really fatigued and like I think I was angry about COVID just because my job requires my brain and I had such brain fog that like even working from home wasn't working and I was just angry. I actually chose to go run at some point. Like I went on like a 1.5 mile run. There's this beautiful trail near me around a lake and my lungs were hurting and I was like coughing a lot, like the dry cough, that doesn't go away. And so I was like, you know what? Screw you, lungs. I'm going to go run and make you work. Let's see how much you suffer. And I don't know why I did that.
Okay. So you like kind of do enjoy torture, but like in an interesting way. Okay. So you get COVID. I think my biggest thing is because like it affects people so many different ways. But, like we're in a strength sport where like even if you're doing some max lifts, like if you feel super fatigued before you start, I can't imagine how like when you went back to training you were even okay.
I don't know. I kind of shut down when I train, and so that's one thing that's really helpful. And that's also why I don't coach myself. I don't want to think about anything. If I start thinking and get in my head, maybe and become too aware, that doesn't really go well for me. So I guess post COVID, I was just slow. Like really, my mindset with this, and I guess with anything related to training or I guess life, if you can like break things down into whatever chunk you can chew, metaphorically, then you can keep walking forward. And so I would during training, especially post COVID, it's like if I had my like squats and if I looked too far forward and started getting overwhelmed, I knew I did the wrong thing. Like I just need to look at, okay, let's just get this first set. If the set's scary, let's just think about the first rep. Let's think of each rep as its own set. Not literally, don't do that, but if you can break things down and make them manageable, which is what I tried to do, but I had to go really slow to get there. So sessions were taking like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, which is not usual for me.
Yeah, I actually put up a post like the other day talking about how all my friends say all their sessions are like 2.5 to 3, sometimes 4 hours. And I was like, I know we all pilot, but I don't get it. Like, how is everybody in here so long? Like, so the fact that I feel like we're on the same page. You're like, because I was sick, I had to be there that long. I'm like, that makes sense to me. Like, I feel like unless you are like a top lifter male because like the absolute weight will take way longer to work up to. I totally get that. But I'm
Right.
like, how are you in my weight class? Or like for you, like you're 52 kilo. Like why would you be here for 3 hours? Like I understand it's heavy for you, but at the end of the day, it's in the 300s. So like
Yeah.
154, come on, 200, let's go. Like put the weight on the bar and lift it.
Dude, that gets me frustrated. I mean, I try not to get angry at other people's lifestyles because that's a lie. I can get pretty heated sometimes, but just spending countless hours in the gym, and I'm guilty of it sometimes. Like, you have your buddies that you'll see, and if you have nothing else to do, maybe you'll hang around for 3 or 4 hours. And I did that more in undergrad and whatnot, but like if you really need 10 minutes of rest between your sets, like what's going to happen when you're on a flight of lifters and you only have 5 lifters ahead of you? Like what if the flight's like 7 lifters or something? What are you going to do? Just run the clock down?
Yeah, that's what crosses my mind too. And I'm like, just like you, like when I was in college, I used to be in the gym for like 3 hours, but then I grew up and like
that one.
Adults. Like, why are you taking 15 minutes? But I guess for some people, the gym really is their stress relief. Like, I love training, but like, I just have things to do. I'm not trying to live here. What about the rest of my stuff in my life? Like, no.
I appreciated that so much.
Oh my God. But I do want to talk about too, because you also mentioned, so before we even get to the car again, like you're getting your PhD in exercise physiology. And that has to be extremely time consuming. I have a friend who just got her PhD in like musical conducting. And obviously very, very different. But like she's really close to me. So she was like telling me about like the amount of work she had to do. And truly, and she's not a complainer because she graduated. So, she's not a complainer. But I'm like, how did you survive and train while you did this? Like, how do you balance like your PhD and training and then whatever else you have to do in your life?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's funny you say that because I thought that I wasn't doing well. Like I thought that I wasn't managing enough because I kind of, we're all our worst critics, and I'll like be super hard on myself if I'm not giving 100% to everything I do, which is dang near impossible. Whoops. And there's a post. What was his name? Ben Pollock. I think it was Ben Pollock's storyline. Somebody asked him like, I want to train however many days a week and get big and stronger. I'm wording it poorly, but how do you do that when you have other life things? Like I'm a med student, this, that, and the other. And Ben's like, there's no balance. You just do it, which I initially was like, wait, I don't understand. That doesn't make sense. But then I thought through a little bit and I see it's just like you're just managing time down to the minute, which is frustrating because I have a dog too. Is he? No, he's not in the background. And so just trying to be a good caretaker of this being and ensure that they get quality time with me and outside time, and that I also don't burn out because I don't know. I've burnt out before in my master's, and like my goal here is I don't want to become the person that I was to the people around me like I was when I was in my master's. And so I don't know. I mean, I wake up way earlier now than I ever have before. I am not a morning person. I love mornings. They're beautiful, but I'm not a morning person. So
what time?
On average now with lab stuff starting to roll out more, I'm up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock. It depends on what's happening in the lab because our studies are kind of kicking off. So now we have like 4 studies that'll all started by January. A few of them have already started. And so getting up, my morning routine is, I've been told, really slow. I take like 2 hours. I want 2 hours to myself before the day starts. And so it's like, you get up, you shower, do all that. I read my Bible. I at least want to read a chapter per morning, but it might be more or less depending on how much time I have. And then practice Spanish and then take kilo out. It's like, oh, that takes about 2 hours.
You know, I feel so seen right now because like my mornings, the amount of time I get up at 6 and I can't figure out why I can't get to the gym till 8 o'clock. Like I'm like, why is it that no matter what I do, I can't get there before 8? Like I just every time. And like our mornings are semi-similar. I don't have a dog, but I'm like, okay, crawl out of bed at 6, then read the Bible, and then I will read like a small chapter from a self-help book of some sort. Then I will put on an audiobook that's about becoming a millionaire or something like that. Like whatever it's about getting rich. I'm not gonna lie, I'm obsessed with money. That's a side note. But so audiobook, take a shower, eat, and when I eat, I don't even like I'm not making a gourmet meal. I'm having like yogurt and like cereal, and then like pet my cat. And then like somehow I get in the car at 7:45. I'm like, wow, I don't know what happened. Like I feel like I should have been in this car half an hour ago.
But it's so important, like that ritual, especially like because in Wisconsin, it's gonna get really dark for most of the day very soon, and so having that morning time where the sun hasn't rise yet, and the world seems like it stands still. I found that's how I do it. Like that's those mornings. If I give myself that time, because I used to be somebody that like I would barely wake up in time to put on pants to get out the door because I was late. I'm notoriously late to everything. I'm working on it. I'm horrible. So just like changing that up and having this weird large gap of time, it's like it keeps me centered about my day, because by the time I'm in the building, it's like I am trying to get the stuff that I need to get done, like such that I have on my calendar, like, okay, this is time for the manuscript work. This is time for studying. This is time for TA stuff. This is time for my classes. And so like, I'll stop doing whatever thing I had that time slot for as that next time slot rolls in. And then of course they change based on what deadlines are coming up. And then, I mean, I ride my bike home, and that's probably about 4:00. And then the first thing I do is get seen by my dog, and then he's screaming. So then I go play outside, and then I'll like sit down and eat. And then that's when I can go to the gym for about an hour and a half. And then I'll come back and do more work before bed. And then I have a little book that I read for myself. It's about horses. So.
Oh, I love that for you. I'm reading my nighttime book, which I've kind of fallen off the nighttime book since I added in the audiobook. Not gonna lie, my nighttime book is literally about a family that traveled around the world, just had fun. Like that's it. Like I mean, literally, they're just like, yeah. Now we're in England, and little Jimmy threw up, and like this is the book I'm reading.
That sounds like the Oregon Trail, but like the successful version.
Kinda. So, oh man. So what you do? Like I just love hearing about people's schedules, like a day in the life. I'm obsessed with YouTubes that are literally a day in the life YouTubes. And it's essentially, again, I'm watching it from like millionaires, but I like to see what successful people who made it financially, what their schedule's like. And I'm fascinated because they're all the same. They're exactly the same. They all wake up early. No one gets up before like or after 6, like none of them. It's the range of 3 to 6. The 3 a.m. people are crazy. I'll never be them. I will never be them. But like, it's a range of 3 to 6. They get up. They always read. Always. They're always working out. Not like every day, but you know what I mean? Like they're always like working out as part of their life every day. And then they time block. Just like you said, you time block at a certain time. Like that's called time blocking. They time block. They schedule out the whole day. And then they schedule out time for family too. So your dog, like truly, you have like to step down. And like I'm like, pretty much made my schedule be like that. Kind of like everyone who's successful is not that hard. It seems to at least be the kind of person who like is productive enough to be able to figure out how to be more like them. It's like just be really organized and get out of bed and read something and work out. Take care of yourself.
Well, there's also like, I don't know if this is true. I tend to be a bit, my views on a lot of things are very romanticized and almost like naive seeming. So of course, like the person I am when I wake up at like 8 or 9 a.m. versus the person that I am when I wake up at 6, two completely different people. Like who I wake up as when it's like 8 or 9, that person on average will not go through the day with as much composure and like what's the word I want here? like composure and discipline. Whereas like if I wake up at 6 and say, for instance, I was still in a rush, like let's say we controlled everything. I did my morning routine at 8 or at 6, or I didn't do either. That person at 6 o'clock is still a different person. Like there's something about me when I do that, where I go about my day with a bit more determination. And a good day's work is like something that I really cherish. Like I'm probably a bit addicted to it. Maybe I tie my identity to it, and that's probably true. But like getting home from a day knowing that I actually did things is really important to me. If I don't do that, then like I don't go to sleep well. How I am with others might not be as helpful. How maybe I'm more vain. I don't like that. Yeah, sorry, that was long-winded.
No, it wasn't even, because dude, like this is exactly like me, and what I'm learning through like staring at everyone on YouTube is that when you wake up later and you're in a rush, you don't get to check off a bunch of boxes. Like between 6 and 8, the amount of stuff that like you get done, or even I get done, like I don't know if you make your bed. I make my bed first. I forgot about the first thing. So boom, check off the list. Read a book, check off the list. Said a prayer, check off the list. Make sure my cat's litter box got cleaned out. I forgot about that part. Check off the list. So like you get in the car at 8 or whatever, and you're like, I've checked off like 9 things. It's gonna be a good day. I have some time with myself before like the day gets busy. And so like you set yourself up to like check off our boxes. But if I wake up and I can barely put on my underwear before I get out the door, I'm like, no, the day's a rush day. I'm pissed off at myself. So I'm all day I'm just like annoyed with myself, and now I'm just like everything is rushed, like everything is half done, it's not done well. I'm just like, ew. So
I hate that feeling with my all of my heart.
Oh my god, yes.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No. That was I was thinking of what your question you would ask that got us here, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I answered it. Okay.
You totally did answer it. I was asking about how you pretty much schedule out your time to make time for powerlifting with being in school for getting a PhD. And I want to move to you getting hit by a car, because when did you get hit by this car in prep?
Oh geez, when did I get hit by this car? It would have been like maybe mid to late September. Dang. It wasn't long ago. It was like
long ago.
It wasn't long ago. Which is why I was so pissed. Yeah. Okay. I can't remember exactly when it was. It was a Monday. Cool, I just remember that.
But that means it was like just over a month ago. So that's like the start of your peak, actually. So you start peaking and you get hit by a car. And then you basically kind of said like you did a lot of submaximal loads. How you said also too, though, you normally do more submax, and this was your first real peak.
That's how it felt. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't tell if it was the fatigue of having gotten hit or like the fatigue of I'm way more active in all of these areas in my PhD that I wasn't active in last year. I don't know. I was just like, like for instance, at some point I was hitting like 340 on deads, and like they felt heavy to me. And I gave myself room that week. I was like, all right, you did just get hit. Let's like see if next week feels the same. Let's see if there's a pattern here, which I'm very thankful that I don't, this wow, this sounds a little arrogant here. I'm very thankful for my mind in this way, because I just see a lot of people who like the moment one lift feels off, they just like, they're flipping a table metaphorically, and they're just upset at the world, and like they just think it's the end of it. I'm like, well, let's see if there's a pattern first. Let's not assume I don't want to deal with that emotional energy of being anxious. So let's just see. So yeah, I started feeling like the lows were heavy, but then I also realized, okay, yeah, I got hit by a car. It was like 7 or 8 weeks out, because I remember talking to my buddy Craig about my loads feeling heavy, like week 7 or week 6 out. And I was like, yeah, this like 360 deadlift moved and it felt really heavy, and I hit it for a double like this many months ago. And Craig's like, well, you were heavier back then, no? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, and how does your peaks typically go? Or how do your meet preps typically go? And I'm like, well, actually, we actually keep me reined in pretty much, or a lot, during my meet preps. So this is the first time that I'm touching this load this early, which is kind of exciting because I don't know what that means. So yeah, that was really interesting to me, because I think by like a few weeks out or a week or two out, I hit 374, And I mean, the heaviest I'd ever gone in a previous prep was like 340, 350.
Wow.
And usually Jared, because I like to do a lot of things. I tend to stay a little stressed all the time. And so that doesn't do well for terms of recovery. And I also enjoy beer, which I've actually stopped enjoying as much for sake of health. But all of those things don't really maximize recovery, right? And so this is my mentality and why Jared does this. But I do a lot of the stuff that people don't really like seeing nowadays, like block pulls or board presses. It's like, it really does help though. So I was hitting like 360, 370 off of blocks. But this is the first time this prep that I actually was pulling from the floor. And it was going well, which is really weird.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, that was long-winded again.
Do not apologize. The whole point is to have a conversation. But okay, so this is the first prep you legit pulled off the floor, and then you see you hit 375, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just to go over your numbers from this meet, you had 341 squat, a 220 bench, and a 385 deadlift for a 946 total. Again, number 6 total in the world for 2 kilo. And what was the closest you got these numbers for the squat and the bench in your prep?
That's a good question. I think the closest I got would have been, I think, 321 squat, like 2 weeks out, and then maybe like a week and a half out. And then bench is kind of, I actually haven't paid attention to bench because there was a lot going on in terms of bench. I was working on trying to figuring out my setup, because last year I remember failing on my second attempt bench because I set up too far. Like, Sean Noriega is giving me crap for this. I like to set up with my feet first, because in the past my feet will always like be asymmetrical, and I hate that. I don't know why, but it irritates me. So I set up feet first. But that means that I have to probably guess where I'm going to be located on the bench, because I'm not doing it in orientation to the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So in last year's CPT, I remember setting up way too far back. And so, like, if you think about too far back, my feet were too under me. And so my butt came up because my leg drive was just not optimal for that. And of course that like was frustrating. And then I hit my third attempt, which was the same weight, but like I knew what I did wrong and I fixed it and moved way better. And I was like, well, that's a rookie mistake. Like, I should know better. So we worked a lot on that this prep. And so I was focused on that. So I really don't even know what's the heaviest weight I hit, because a lot of things I did with bench were to a board. Like, I think I hit 230 or 230 to 240 or something to a board. And I think I hit like 213 for a double, something like that. We're really weird with bench. I don't know how to pay attention to what I'm doing with bench.
I will say it's definitely like the iffiest lifts, I think, across the board for most people. Like, it's tough, especially let me take that back. Not for most people, but I will say lighter weight woman. Like, you hit 213 for a double, and then like that's incredible. You go up 7 pounds, and it might feel like RP 10. Right. But like other weight classes is a little different. Right. So I feel like in general, especially just like for me, because I coach all my powerlifting clients right now are women anyways. And most of my people are lighter weight or like mid. And I'm like, this is definitely the lift that's like the trickiest. But it's like fun because like you can mess around with it and like see the results of it like within a week's time. So it's just an iffy lift. That's my point.
No, I 100% subscribe to that. I know during my master's thesis, it was essentially a powerlifting program, but worded scientifically for sake of getting through an academic program. And it was for young women. And I wanted to look at like these cardiovascular and autonomic variables pre and post. But the cool thing was I got to do this powerlifting program in women. And A, it got approved by the ARB, which was like super fun. But B, bench was the finicky lift. And I had some friends in my program help me and, supervise the participants with me. And when it came to like 1 rep max time pre and then post, it was either the subjects that were too greedy with their bench numbers that they wanted to jump to, which I mean, I didn't let them, or it was the assistants that were helping me with the studies, like, oh no, you definitely have like this many more kilos in you. And I'm like, no, they won't. Guaranteed. They're novice. They have no training. They're female. And while that last lip looked like an RPE like 6.5 or 6, it's like, just wait, add 2.5 kilos at best. And then they almost failed it. It's like, told you. It's not linear at all.
It's not at all. I am fascinated that you did a whole study on it though. Like, is it like, I'm dumb. So wait, is it published? I was like, what's the word looking for? Like, is it published? Is that the word?
Yeah, no, it is. It is published. I forget which journal it's in, but it was definitely much more related to like the cardiovascular and autonomic stuff. So it's not a fun read if that's not like your interest. But it was me getting to study powerlifting in this like very academic field where most people do, when they claim resistance training studies, they're like, oh, let's do 3x10 on this muscle isolating machine with this really light load, and let's call it high intensity because somehow intensity is a non-defined term, I guess. I'm being snarky. That wasn't nice, but yeah,
I like it.
It was fun. It was spiteful. It's like a poke. Like, you guys want to study this thing you know nothing about. Let me actually study it, and you can help me with the jargon. That kind of thing.
I love that. We'll get back to powerlifting in a second. What's your goal with exercise physiology? Like, when do you graduate, and then like, what do you want to do?
I graduate hopefully in the next 3 years because I'd like to go back home. I miss the South. I really it's news to no one that follows me and sees my Instagram stories. I miss home and I miss the mountains specifically, and I post about them probably way too much. But I would love to go back and teach it, my alma mater. I'd love to go teach it App State, and I want land, and I want my horses, and I want some cows and some goats and some chickens. And then maybe like do a rehab type of situation where, because I know my mom always wanted to kick off this idea of like horses helping people and people helping horses, and eventually I'll have to take over her horses and her rescue, and that'd be fun to integrate into my life too. It's a lot of hands in multiple pots, if that's the expression. I forget, but I don't know. I have all these goals, and I don't know which ones are going to actually, I don't know if you want to make God laugh, you tell him your plans. So it's like, okay, I really would like to be back in this place, and I'd like to teach because I really like the connections I can make with students. Like, not at a big university. I don't just purely love research, but I was actually struggling with this last year. Like, academia itself doesn't really strike me as important all the time. However, I almost disregarded the skills that God gives you. Like, you're blessed with certain skill sets that you yourself have that others might not. And I don't know if teaching is it, but I do think that I like making connections with people. And so that's something that through teaching and the fact that I just like thinking a lot, which kind of pushed me that direction, I can do that. So that's my goal, unless I can be a stay-at-home mom, which
you're like, or the exact opposite of everything I said.
I mean,
I'm about it, man. You're cool to learn about. Okay, so I want to ask you, and I'm sure getting your PhD has a lot to do with this. So obviously incredibly strong. Your competition in America, in order to try to get to like IPF, if you were ever interested in that, would be like Andrea Riley, right?
Right.
And
I think so.
Yes.
Oh yeah, you probably know. I don't pay attention to this, so you're telling me things right now.
That's okay. I do my research. So do you want to try to compete internationally at any points? Has it even crossed your mind as I look at your face?
It did. That was when I first got into powerlifting. I mean, I started powerlifting because I was better at it than weightlifting. I used to Olympic weightlift. I was just too in my head with weightlifting, and I had way more powerlifting friends that peer pressured me into doing my first meet. And I was better than I expected for a first time competitor. And so, and of course I did the thing that everyone does. Like, I start making these fantasy goals, like, oh, what if I'm good enough for nationals and then worlds? And that dream died for a long time. Between I think I want to say like 2019 to 2021, like I was ready to hang my hat up and just say F it to powerlifting. I don't know why. I think I was just, my naivety was wearing off of how people exist in the world. And I chose to just focus on this one category of population, but it's just in general. And I think that wasn't fair to the sport. So it's rekindled, especially, especially after Carolina Primetime recently, like talking with Steve, talking with, I've got a lot of friends that competed in that meet or that were there, and they were just kind of mentioning like the trajectory and the numbers that my numbers in comparison to others in my weight class. And I was just like, oh, how did I end up here? Okay. Well, I somehow am managing to do the thing that I had the plan to do like 6 years ago. I guess maybe I might as well keep going. So it'd be ideal. I don't know if I'd want to go PLA though. And that's the stressful thing is like, I don't understand the politics between USAPL and PLA to know, do I stay with USAPL? Because that seems fun. But if I want to go international, I think PLA is the only route I can do that with. And what does that look like? And do I follow the current rules, like benching, for instance? I think I bench to depth. I'm not quite sure, but I don't know. I think I probably would consider it at least after national, since it's closer, because I was not going to go all the way to Las Vegas. Like I looked up the price of that entire stay and there was no way in heck.
It was a lot.
It was yeah, you were there, were you? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I did everything there. It was a lot. But okay, let me at least, because it seems like you're just like the wheels started turning in your head to think about this like probably last week then at Carolina Primetime. So yes, you're correct. You would have to go through PLA. Yes, the politics are very annoying. Essentially, once you do a PLA meet, you cannot do any other federations meet. You can't even coach on other federations meets, which is annoying. They got like there's other stuff that's annoying too. They like made up rules. Did you hear about the Corrupted Summit? The summit, not the meets.
No, what happened?
Okay, so who is it? Jesus Oliveras, Jessica Espanol, and someone else. I forgive me, whose name I can't remember. I can't think of them. They were going to be a part of it, and we were doing like just fun exhibition events. Like we did like a tandem deadlift. We did like bench for as many reps as possible, right? The president, Robert Keller made a whole statement. This is essentially because there are referees there. There were no real referees. Like people are referees because like they're referees, but no one's refereeing. But they're like, because the referees there, this is sanctioned events. If they are involved in it at all, if they do any of the events like the body weights, like whatever, or like the tandem deadlift, they are banned from PLA. And it was literally a freaking tandem deadlift with like some random dude in a t-shirt just sitting down. They said he couldn't be part of it. So I will not lie. The politics are getting worse. It's very annoying. However, put that aside. You can go to Worlds. I'm so for like if the strongest person represents USA, like that's amazing. Obviously, you have big hitters going against you, right? Like Noemi Yalabert's gonna be there. Tiffany Chapone, when she does, like she just did a meet at the 52 weight class. She's not officially switching over, but her total was high. I forgot what it was, but it was above what you just hit by a little bit. Like they're really some strong heavy hitters. But like for America, like you could be the strongest to represent America, man. That'd be amazing.
That would be pretty neato.
That'd be amazing. Andrea's best meet right now is 931 pounds. I will not pretend I've been paying attention to her training. Mm-hmm. I have not. So don't ask me. I'm sure she's gotten stronger. And I know she had an injury for a while, and now she's on the come up. And I know it's trajectory in a good way. Cause I saw some deadlift, forget the number, but I was like, oh, you back. So like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you back to numbers you were hitting before. Okay, there we go. Right. But I'm just saying, girls, please consider it. Like, please consider it.
It's been sitting in my little brain. It'd be cool. Cause you keep doing, like, you keep making goals and achieving them. And eventually, like, you have to either make a new goal, which winning nationals, I think, is a fair next step if I could ever do that. I don't want to like say, oh, I'm going to be a national champion, because I think that's a bit arrogant. And I also feel like if I don't do that, then I look like a fool. And I don't want to do that.
I
but yeah, I mean, if I can continue the step-by-step process, I wouldn't be opposed. I would like to be more financially stable, or I'm going to take up some sort of craft and sell it. I don't know what that would be. I don't plant well. I don't paint. I mean, I guess I paint okay. I'm just going into random thoughts, but yeah, it would be neat. I would consider it, and it'd be cool. I can't believe I'm going to say this. It'd be cool to shake France up a bit, because France is stacked, like annoyingly stacked, and I don't pay attention at all, but I do know France is stacked, so it'd be cool to put some pressure on them.
Yes, it would be. Hold on, you say you don't pay attention, right? So thankfully you got me, right? So you got
Dude, I'm gonna start asking you weekly, like, okay, so what's the news now?
You really could, because I spend a lot of time doing this, because I'm just like, well, I'm a podcaster. I guess I should keep up. So, but you got Noemi, you got Shizuka Rico, you got whenever Tiff pops up to a weight class, she smashes it and then goes back down to 48s or 47. I've been messing up the USAPL with IPF kilos, but like that's who that you got from France in this weight class. But don't make that face. Don't make that face. Like, you're still like one of the strongest in USA for this, and you can keep getting stronger. Like, you've done like one meet per year for the past couple of years. Like,
this is true.
It's not like if you were like, and I put everything into this meet and I train. It's like, no, bro. Like, you're busy as heck. And like you got hit by a car, got COVID, stumbled into the meet, half dead. I guess. I'm just picturing now like a disheveled version of you, like crawling into me and just like destroying it, like doing an amazing job with your total. So I will just say, anywho, just please consider it. Just
I mean, you're not
about it a little bit. I know I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong. I mean, I'm side tangent. I always think it's funny because this is the second time I've come into Carolina Primetime, and I've had to spit to make weight because I don't like cutting weight. I could do it. I could have this discipline to have an extreme deficit, or I think I actually did strategically plan this. I planned to spit that morning because we weigh in so late. It was like 10 a.m. when we weighed in, and I was like, oh, I would really like to eat something the night before. And I think it might be in my best interest for performance sake if I can drink like even sips of water. So like last year, that was not planned, me spitting. I think I spit like a kilo and some change worth of body weight to make weight. And I had to weigh in 3 different times. Like I had to weigh in at the beginning of the women's line, and then I had to weigh in at the end, and then I still didn't make weight. So then I had to weigh in at the end of the men and then somehow warm up and then do decently enough last year. And then this year it's like, okay, I'm sitting at a table the night before I have to weigh in. I am a raisin and I've had an all liquid diet. So I'm just like very empty, and everyone's eating Mexican food at this tipsy taco joint, which looked delicious. I'm like picking a piece of chicken off of my buddy's plate. I'm like, please let me have this one thing.
Oh my God.
And I'm like just lapping like a dog at my water. Like, I just want to feel like I'm hydrated. And I was like, I'm just gonna wake up and spit. And so then I spit like a kilo worth that next morning and still made weight. And I was like, what if you just chose to not do that? Like, what if you just chose to stay around 52 and do this appropriately so you're not putting yourself under stress? Because my quad started cramping during squats, and then my pec minor was hurting during deadlifts. And I was just like, it'd be awesome to like set myself up for success one day.
So imagine you like took powerlifting seriously.
Sean Noriega will send me that message almost verbatim once in a while. Like, he'll just be like, imagine if you just took this seriously, or how in his normal fashion he'll say it. And I'm like, I take it seriously enough.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna whatever you did worked well enough. But I will say I'm always fascinated when someone tells me something like this. I'm like, imagine like the nutrition was on point for like a month straight, and like the everything else, like the water intake, you're tracking it all, and you went into me.
I know.
but that's something for you to think about, for the future. So that's out there. We're going to see what happens. DM me your questions later.
Just
It's
plant the
okay.
seeds.
Planting
I
the
see what,
seeds,
you
trying to grow it. Start being like Sean Noriega, just like every 3 weeks. Hey, how's it going?
That's
But
fantastic.
okay, I do want to ask you, when's your next meet? Do you have a plan right now?
I actually kind of do. I soft committed to Steve and Sean that I would do nationals in Memphis, and that's in September, I believe, of next year. So I was like, okay, I have roughly about another year to train. Do I want, because I'm going to try to make this concise. What annoyed me about my performance at CPT was that part of the reason why I haven't competed for a very long time is I hate the pressure of preparing for a meet. Like, I get really in my head. I could be, irritable with people. I didn't handle it well. And it's like, well, instead of avoiding this experience because you don't think you'll handle it well, just learn to handle it better. So that was one thing I want to work on by getting into another competition before nationals. The second thing is, I'm not going to lie, I was really close with Jen Thompson in being third. And had I made my third deadlift, I was going to be in a better position for third. And I think after my performance entirely and realizing that, because I didn't know any of this, like my best friend Josh was handling me and my coach Jared was also there, but he was handling someone else. So I was like, not trying to bother him, but I didn't know my position at all. I didn't want to know. I usually don't know anything when I'm competing. If anything, I kind of like sit in a corner and I'm just trying to keep my arousal levels, the inverted U curve. I'm trying to keep it like optimum arousal there. And so after the meet was over, to learn how close I was actually really mad at myself because I sandbagged my bench so bad. And I don't think I had much more in me on squat, but I probably might have if I had cared enough. That I realized what really shows needing improvement is that I have little experience competing. If I had more experience, then I maybe would have been able to know how much more I had in the tank for bench to know I should have gone higher, or to know that, okay, you can grind on a squat a little bit, you're fine. Because I don't know how to grind at all. I hate grinding. So it's like, I need to compete again before nationals because I don't want to sandbag eternally. Which I think really shows, again, the fact that it was between me and Jen Thompson, I think that's a really cool example there. Is like, you have this woman who has so much meet experience and is so good at what she does. And she's both physically and psychologically prepared to compete. I don't have that psychological advantage at all. If anything, I don't know and I don't pay attention, and I will sandbag if you give me the room to. So that was long. That was a long-winded explanation of I have to do a meet between now and nationals if I want to get better, I think. So I was thinking, I know Carolina Primetimes, and I've heard that they might be having it in June. So I was considering, of course, doing that again because I just love Marshall and Megan, and that meet is the best put together meet I have ever seen or been a part of. And I always love going home and seeing all these people that I love. That's there's not much more I could ask for, but if not that, sometime in the spring.
I wanted to actually ask you about the meet because as someone who I was last second months ago with the flights, I was like, y'all, I'll be watching from the live stream once I saw the flight prices, but the vibes looked incredible. The amount of people posting about how much fun they were just having was so surreal. I'm like, is this nationals? Everyone's just having the time of their life. What's it like? I don't know how to ask because I know you're competing, so you're not enjoying and hanging out. But what are the vibes like at Carolina Primetime?
I think I'm just going to be biased towards I'm going to give the disclaimer that I'm very biased towards home. And once I moved to Wisconsin, I only got more and more biased towards North Carolina. Yes. But it's, everyone's going to have their quirks. And when you have big groups of people that know each other, of course, there's going to probably be drama. And I'm going to leave that there because it's just, I don't want to paint a perfect picture by any means. But people love each other, and it's really cool because you're in this like local meet and you have the stacked roster, which, you know, has been mentioned over and over by different people, but you really do. You have the stacked roster of lifters that came locally to this meet to just compete in it for fun. So it's like, it's pretty low stress. So you get to actually, I mean, I guess it's as low stress as you can have it be. Meaning that you get to really embrace all of the different emotions of like, you know, I got to see all of my friends from Boone, where I went to college, and like just goof off with them and hug them, and probably way more than I needed to say how much I love them. And then you have like people from Raleigh and all these different gyms kind of like get together and just kind of like bond. And I don't know how to describe the vibes besides like there's just a lot of love, even with people who might not like each other or like disagree with one another. It's like there's a level of camaraderie that I think I truly took for granted when being home before, because now that I moved to Wisconsin, or like I'll go visit family in Washington State or San Diego, and I'll see these other communities, it's like there's something not prioritized in other places. And it's not true for everyone, but there's a prioritization of community, which I think sets up everything else for success. It's just really fun. And like, yeah, Marshall and Megan just also put on a really good meet. Like, I think one of the things that wasn't talked about that I think was super cool is even as small as like assigning warm-up racks and having warm-up attendants. That was because I'm not assertive. I am a very agreeable person unless somebody else gets messed with. And then of course I can get assertive, but for me, I'm not assertive and I'm very agreeable. So to get me to ask for a rack during my warm-up doesn't happen. So to have somebody, or to have a rack guaranteed for me and to know who's going to be on that rack, and then so that you can even prep and coordinate with the other handlers or the warm-up attendant, and it becomes very streamlined and smooth so long as people are respecting one another. And that made, to me, all the difference, because you weren't stressed. You weren't thinking about like, oh, so-and-so just jumped on my rack. It's like, no, if they know better, they should go on the rack that they were assigned, and you can tell them to, and I will tell them to. But yeah, it was just small stuff like that really made the difference.
Yeah, one thing, I never gotten to meet Marshall and Megan in person yet, but just from watching, and I saw like there was like a video. I think they're trying to become state chair or something. That's
yeah,
state chairs, right?
Yeah.
So like just paying attention to like the weekend and everything, I'm like, they must love powerlifting. I mean, they must love it. Like truly, I'm like, I need to meet you guys, sit down with you, have coffee. Like I just want to like talk to you. Like that's really cool that they put on a very organized meet with an excellent live stream, great commentary on it, because that was my point of view from it. But just watching it, like extremely organized, ran smooth, spars and loaders on point. Like there were no lagging whatsoever. It was just really nice. Oh, they had like who was coming up next on the live stream. I screenshot that. I was like, did you see they put who was coming up? Like that's really, really well done. So I'm happy that it was even better in person, because the live stream, what's the word I'm looking for? The live stream experience was pretty great.
I heard, yeah, I kind of like looked back after the meet was over. Of course, I wanted to hear the commentary because Steve and Angelo are just hilarious. And I didn't realize like how immaculate the live stream was. I mean, I knew that like Marshall was obsessed. He's like, I want the best live stream I can possibly have. And Marshall's a wizard. I don't know how he does it. Like, I am a 65-year-old woman when it comes to this stuff. Like, I want pen and paper. I don't know how to make anything happen. I don't know what he did to do the thing that he did, but it was so fancy. Even like the little ESPN style, like whooshy sounded USAPL emblem. I'm like, what the heck?
Oh. Nah, it was solid. Oh my gosh. Okay, so to kind of wrap up, I want to ask you a few ending questions.
Okay.
Number 1, who is your biggest powerlifting inspiration?
Biggest powerlifting inspiration? Oh man.
You can't say Marshall.
Shoot fire. I'm thinking there was somebody at some point. Biggest powerlifting inspiration. What did old me used to think?
What does the current you think?
I
You
don't
have to
know if
appreciate someone a lot.
I think I do. I just can't. It's funny because the only name popping up is actually a weightlifter named Maddie Rogers. I'm like, that's not powerlifting, Serene.
It's not powerlifting.
You know, I might have to say, at least off the top of my head, the person that's coming to mind is Jamar Royster. That might be the person I'm going to say for right now, because I'm sure there's somebody, and I definitely know that I used to look up to people a little bit more when I was first getting into it. But Jamar Royster, I think, is one. And that might be because I also know him personally, but we've chatted, and I think it's easy to get caught up in, if you're really good at the sport, and the sport's, I mean, I don't mean to slam it, but it's only really popular on Instagram and related apps. So it's like, if you allow yourself to get wrapped up in this reality of these social media pages and you embed yourself in the appearance that the sport's really popular, you let it eat you, and you maybe become one-dimensional as a person. And so Jamar and I have had conversations about that, and I've kind of gotten to see a little bit of his transition through his business building and his character building, and just, you know, being so good at his craft, both with powerlifting and this love for cooking and documenting it, and then making his business and building that up. And it's like, he still holds the perspective, or at least when we last talked about it, that, you know, none of these things should purely be his identity. And powerlifting, for the most part, especially when he took it more seriously, like when he put way more pressure on it to be his main identity, didn't go well for him. And he realized that's when he needed to invest in other things. And then through investing in those other things and other people, powerlifting really kind of took off for him. Hopefully I'm not putting words in his mouth, and I hope that he would be okay with me saying those things. But I think he's someone that really inspired me, because we got to have those conversations. And I know those words echo in my head because that's a fear of mine. It's like, I never want to be one-dimensional or allow my head to get bigger than it needs to be. And granted, that I don't think that I would ever do that, but you see it a lot with people. So that, or Marcellus. I love Marcellus.
So are you saying Jamar inspired a stronger you?
Bro, if you were in this room, I would throw something at you.
I had to say it. Come on.
I love it so
much. No, I love that, man. I mean, honestly, that like, I'm not gonna tear up. But just like the other, because I was in Texas for Corrupted Summit, and like me and Jamar talked for the first time ever. Like, we've talked before many times, but we like talked for like 45 minutes. And I'm like, everything you just said, like, I fully agree with. Like, everything you just said, I think you said, I hope you'd be happy with that. I'm like, I believe he'd be fully happy with that. Like, truly getting to really know him, I'm like, wow, like you truly are inspiring. Like, just the way he talks about the role powerlifting plays in his life, but it's not his whole life, what his goals are with his business. But again, even though he has very high goals for himself and he's very regimented, he won't let any of that like control like his life and like take it over, you know? Like, it's cool. So I love that answer. Marcellus is awesome too. Don't worry. Love you too, bro. All right. One thing you hate about powerlifting. Don't overthink it. Just spit it out.
I hate the culture of it, if I had to be serious. And I hate like the stereotypes that go along with it, and people feeding into the stereotypes, like being an athletic or like dialing everything in to make sure that you don't fatigue yourself at all for a session. Like you essentially strip down your humanity to be good at this thing that's not important outside of Instagram. And I think I hate that the most. Yeah. Or I hate the fact that powerlifting took anime and made it cool. I like anime and I was made fun of it for years. And then now it's like it's a trend. It's like if you don't like anime, you're weird. And I'm like, yeah, you probably like picked on me when I was 6 because I woke up for Inuyasha at like 5 a.m. on school days.
If I was an anime fan, I would fully feel your pain. I was a girl who had a lot of friends who loved anime and I didn't get it. Here I am today. I still don't get it. So
fair.
I can't relate. Fair. I did watch Loveless. I watched that whole thing. And I watched, what's that really popular one? About Death Note. I watched all of Death Note.
Death Note's good. Death Note's good. Did you watch the anime though, not the live action, right?
I watched both. The live action was terrible. So I watched the anime first, and I'm very happy I did because the live action was horrifying.
Yeah, the live action was weird.
It was just bad. Like, it was literally just poorly done. I was like, this sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, they like took that, made it cool. Like now they listen to those intro songs to get prepped. And I'm like, this is not fair.
Oh my God. All right. What's one thing you love about powerlifting?
Oh man. One thing I love. I like how weird it is. I really like how weird it is. As somebody who like did some sports growing up, and I do value, like when I did coach for a little bit, I value the powerlifting athletes that did have previous sport experience because you could tell who they were because they had a different connection with you as a coach. Like their coach-athlete relationship with you was much more disciplined and they understood they had roles to fulfill. Whereas like somebody who had never done a sport who jumped into powerlifting for whatever reason, it's like you can tell who those people are too. And yeah, so like leaving that aside, I do like though that it is this weird sport that like, I mean, you are just lifting on one plane of motion, which is kind of funky, but it's kind of gritty. It's kind of fun. It's fun to train for. That's not like a generic college team sport. And I don't know, it makes for a very fun and quirky community, which is kind of neat because I do still value the community heavily. So that was long-winded, but yeah.
That's okay. I like it. All right. Your very last question. Who is your biggest supporter? I'll just say in life. It doesn't have to be just in powerlifting.
Oh man. I'm going to be so cliche, but my mom and my dad might be, just because like my upbringing with them, my dad's always been I've always been his best buddy. And so like he taught me how to work on cars and we'd go do the stuff that he wanted to do with my brother, but did with me instead. And my mom and I had the horses and, we had our hiccups for a very long time, but since rekindled our relationship and fixed it. And ever since then, it's like, so she loves karaoke. She used to be a karaoke DJ growing up. That was her main job. She worked in a bar. I was raised in a bar. That's just was a normal thing for me. Great. I didn't stay there, when people were drinking, but like to set up the equipment at 6 and then I'd go with dad to help tear down. So yeah, she loves karaoke, so now, she lives in this little podunk town an hour north of Raleigh, and her husband, this good old fashioned cowboy guy named Linwood, they'll take me out on karaoke Thursday with them when I go and visit. And every time, without a doubt, she always is the one singing because she loves it. She loves karaoke. And she'll start singing. She'll start serenading me. And she'll stop what she's doing to tell everyone that I'm getting my PhD in. And then she'll start stumbling through what she thinks it's in. And it's just the sweetest thing. And I mean, that's just her to a T, though. It's like she knows when I'm down before I'm even feeling down. Like, I feel like God gave her that gift to know me so well because I'm her daughter, that she can call me out on my things that are happening to me before I've even come to her with them. And so, like, she's my biggest supporter, especially through this. Like, I'm sure she's posted many comments of like, you're doing so well, I love you, blah blah blah, love mom on Facebook under all my powerlifting posts. And I'm like, I appreciate you.
Oh man, that's beautiful, man. Well, shout out to your mother, to your dad, to Jamar, to Marcellus, to Meg, to Marshall. Oh my
There you
God.
go.
Sorry. Had a moment. I think that's all the shout outs we gotta do. But dude, talking to you was so much fun. I appreciate that you took time out of your very busy time block schedule to schedule me in. Thank you.
Dude. No, thank you. I hope I answered your questions well. I don't know. I get really wordy.
You did great. And y'all, catch you next time on the Power and Lifting Podcast. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Again, don't forget to leave a 5-star rating and review. Share with a friend so I can get this out to more people. Get more listeners and subscribers to listen to women in powerlifting doing awesome things. To listen to me talk about things that I wish I knew when I first started the sport. It's a good time. Love you all. Catch you next time.